Hi, I am so happy to have today with me Robin Matrai. I feel like I've known you forever, being in the different groups with you, and I'm here to have you today to talk about your experience with inflammatory breast cancer. And I know you're going through whole brain radiation, and I'm looking forward to you sharing that. And you're joining us from Canada.
I am very cold Canada today. We are sitting
Gosh,
at minus 22 with a wind chill of around minus 29. So
I,
I dislike that I have to be the stigmatized Canadian right now.
I can't relate. It is about 80 today in Texas. It's November.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
so
yeah.
we have a lot to talk about.
Oh
So
my
I'm going to
gosh.
really let you lead. You and I have had a long relationship, I feel like, but I've never got to talk to you this way. And I must admit, when I was first diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer, somebody ever told me I'd had brain metastasis, I'd have been terrified. But now I see so much care given and women doing well. And I think it'd be great to have you kind of like pop that fear, although it's definitely a challenge, but also just share not only your story, but how you've managed to cope. And you have a beautiful web page that you share so much inspiration from. So I kind of want to let you take lead, but I want to jump in and ask an occasional question. So where do you want to start?
Well, let's start right at the very beginning. My life has been a medical journey in many different ways. So part of that is that I was diagnosed with lupus when I was 19 years old. And that was a moment in time that took my mortality away as a young, youthful 19-year-old girl getting out into the world. And I didn't know what to do with that. The doctor said, you have at least 10 good years. Hearing that at 19 is devastating. And suddenly immortality and youth and all those things just come hammering down on you. And so I moved along in life, and as it were, when I gave birth to my second daughter, it was the 10-year mark, and I crashed. I had a multi-system breakdown, and that's when I was plunged into the medical system.
Real quick
Uh,
question here. How
yeah,
old are you right now?
I am 48.
Woohoo! So
Yeah,
go
yeah,
you.
yeah. Me. Oh, nothing stops me. I'm telling you, I'm a
I
weeble.
lo- I love it. I love it.
So I had a multi-system breakdown. I couldn't produce red blood cells. I couldn't breathe on my own. My kidneys completely failed. I had 23 full body plasma transfusions. I was
Oh
in
my star.
hospital for 2 months, and I had a newborn baby and a toddler at home. And in that moment, it hit me that I just wanted to not be in the hospital. I did not want to be a victim of this, and I would do whatever I needed to do to move forward. And I tried, and I was immunosuppressed for a couple of years. Part of lupus treatment is chemotherapy. And I started trying to figure it out. How do I live in this moment? How do I go forward? And that's where this concept of SISU started coming forward. SISU is that idea, a Finnish concept of
Spell that
courage.
word.
Yeah,
I know how, but I want to hear
yeah,
you say it.
yeah, SISU.
Okay.
And it is a concept. It's like a large concept of courage in all adversity. How do you rationally choose courage, even though you are faced with what seems insurmountable?
This is
And
really interesting. And I'm going to jump in real quick because I know when I
yeah,
was diagnosed, and or people say, "Oh, you're so brave," and I tell people that cancer isn't the worst thing that's happened to me. Personally, the rate that I suffered was, I think, the most worst thing because that was a choice that someone made to do something evil. And
mhm,
cancer is cancer. It's just that people would tell me when I would share things about my story, you're so inspiring or you're so brave. And I think a lot of cancer patients find that as a trigger. They don't feel they have any choice. How does that hit you when someone says you're brave or inspiring? Because it's going to tie back to the fact that then you chose to be brave.
Exactly. So when I hear that, um, part of me says, I am not brave. I am scared. There are times when my fear just paralyzes me in a moment. And I have to
Mm-hmm.
stop, feel it, be in it, and then really make a concentrated choice to
See, I
move
think
forward.
that's really fascinating because I hear a lot of women suffer from survivor guilt. And I think that we can release ourselves of that survivor guilt by dealing with some of the emotions that we're not dealing with.
Exactly.
But let me let you
Exactly.
continue on because I think the fact that you're choosing courage is key to
Hmm.
the message you're trying to share.
Well, and a lot of people say you have courage, you're brave. It's not that I always have the courage. I have to find it. It's hiding in there somewhere, and sometimes it runs deep. And so when I was initially diagnosed in 2016, I felt like a
What was your
sack of
initial
salt.
diagnosis in
Yeah,
16 for breast
sure.
cancer
Yeah. So it was stage 3C4 is
of
how they
inflammatory breast cancer?
yes, here, and that's how they diagnosed it here in Canada. So it's stage 3C4, um, ER positive, PR positive, HER2 equivocal. So it wasn't reading one side or the other. It was kind of in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was 41 years old.
Okay. And so in
And
those last 8 years, you've seen progression.
yes,
Okay,
and
but let's go. I don't want to get you out of order. I know you've got a pattern of things you want to say,
that's
but
okay. That's
I think it's interesting. Sometimes you had a prior diagnosis, which obviously taught you how to deal with the medical system, taught you how
absolutely
to deal with these threatening things, and then
truly.
help you have a mindset to go forward.
Well, and truly, when I was first diagnosed with lupus, the internet was not something that was easily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to go to the pharmacist and they would print up these lengthy sheets of paper and wait for the dial up if you wanted to get on any kind of forum or support system.
Yep.
And what I was finding on the forums was something that didn't sit well with me, which was that sense of victim, that this is being done to a self, that they couldn't do anything for themselves, that they were just letting dust gather on them, in my opinion. And I couldn't, I was youthful. I couldn't let that sit in my heart. I wanted to live the best possible life that I could within, I was 19, my means were minimal, so living my best life at that time was taking a moment to, watch a show or go for a walk or um, create or paint or do all these different pieces, right? And so, with limited means, you do the best that you can. And I just knew that I did not want to be a victim. These were the cards that I was dealt. And so, how do I manage my health and still be me? Because lupus is not a definer of me. Inflammatory breast cancer, though it is a big player right now in my life, is not a full definition of who I am.
No, it's just a chapter.
Exactly. And it informs a lot of my decisions, and it has created actually a lot of different opportunities for me. It's,
I
you know,
know that you really want to share some of your coping skills and different things that you're doing, and I want you to refer to the Facebook page that you have these amazing pictures and stories of encouragement on. But also give a quick skinny on your presentation, your diagnosis, then we can move into the other parts that you want to talk about.
yeah, for sure. So um, through from 2016 forward, I've had progression through my body. It started, of course, in the breast, traditionally, what we would, I guess, call traditional presentation in terms
Mhm.
of a rash. I had my mammogram in June 2016, and it said less than 2% chance of cancer. See you in 6 months. Thankfully, I had my primary physician say, I think I've seen something like this before, but you do not fit what the model is. I wasn't a smoker. I wasn't a heavy drinker. I wasn't overweight. I was healthy relative to my lupus. Um, so it just didn't fit. But he said, I think we need to take this a little further. And he said, I've only seen this once in my 30 plus year practice. And so, going into it, by September 2016, I was diagnosed and I started treatment that month.
Okay.
And thankfully, best practices were in place. The trimodal treatment of a systemic chemotherapy. In Canada, I think it's a little bit different. We started with what's FEC-D, and then after that, I had a double mastectomy, and then after that, we did 33 days of radiation, which I, through the IBC Foundation, was able to advocate for myself to change my radiation treatment plan.
I remember that, and I'm very grateful because I hear from women all the time who say that your website for the IBC network had the information I could take to my doctor, because when you said your doctor only saw this once or twice in its career, this is a rare disease, and most physicians will tell you they don't see it very often. And so it's not taught in medical school. It's not presented at the conferences. And so they're at a huge disadvantage. And so the fact that then we have in the gathering, we put the word network in our name, we wanted to network information to patients, to doctors, and back and forth and everything to bring that conversation to the right place. So it means a lot to me that information helps you. So I know you have a list of things you want to talk about. We could probably talk all day.
Oh my gosh, I have no problem talking.
Yeah, I'm a chatter too, sorry. But anyway, so you advocated for yourself. Your doctor sounds like he was very supportive. And
Really.
so, but in the process, you've got a family to take care of, yourself to take care of, try to wrap your head around how you want to be and do.
Well, exactly. And during all of this time, I operate my own business. I have, I employ 30 people. I, take care of just under 300 children. And I had a company to operate, which is also my bucket filler. It is what gave me framework to move and function in something that was already normalized, in something that I didn't have to maybe think about as much because I knew how to do it, and it made me feel normal for pockets of time.
That's great. And we need that.
Oh, truly. So, in 2017, I finished kind of the standard of care for treatment, and I was being followed and had my maintenance meds, waiting for the radiation inflammation to go down to really see just what the impact was in my body. They were able to find in the surgery that my lymph nodes had shown, I don't know, what's the word, extracapsular, I guess, has shown that it had gone through the lymph nodes. And so systemically, I was now officially stage 4. And it was just a matter of monitoring at that point. So there were little spots that they were watching, and I was maintaining treatment. And in 2018, I was excited because there was a little extra hope that maybe I was going to just kind of come out of this NED, no evidence of disease. And then that tumor showed up in my liver. And it was devastating. I, was feeling okay. And I didn't know what to do in that moment. And I didn't want to be incapacitated. But I remember that day so clearly. It was in the spring. I was doing my flowers, which is like part of my cathartic moment where it's just me and dirt and plants, and it hit me, is this the last time that I'll do this?
Oh gosh, I can relate. I can't relate in the sense that I've not ever had progression, but I can relate in the sense of, is this the last time?
Exactly.
Or the idea of, it is interesting, I'm looking at the picture over your shoulder of the robin's nest, eggs. And I have to tell you about that something later. It made me think of something about you. But I remember I was bald and green and bloated. I was in a grocery store and there were some plants. I thought, I'm gonna buy some of these flowers to plant in my yard. And looking forward to them blooming. And this lady walked up to me and she said, "You've got cancer." And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "And you're planting flowers?" And I said, "Yeah." "Do you think you'll live to see them bloom?" And I go,
Oh
"Yeah."
my gosh.
And she was crying. But I
Oh,
thought, we need things to look forward to.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, in that moment, there was a choice. I could sit back on my legs and stop what I was doing and just say, forget it. What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Or I can say, hey, I have this moment right now, and I'm gonna get these darn flowers in the garden and I'm going to water them. And that's going to be my goal over the next however many days it takes me to process this information. Because I think when you get new information that is not as hopeful as maybe you want in a moment, it can stop you and you don't know where to go with it. And for me, I have to process that emotion. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot to take. And to expect anyone to take that and wrap it around their head in a moment is difficult. So
Well, and that's, I think, where my big thing is hope always. And people think
yeah,
I started saying that because of cancer, but it was really before, because my life was difficult. Some things that happened to me that were difficult. And I kept choosing hope and kept choosing courage.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah, and you're choosing that.
Yeah. So
Now,
just making
I
that
would like
little
to have you
goal.
compare a little bit too. I don't subscribe to the mentality that we can mentally heal ourselves, in the sense that, well, because I'm a Texas girl, so people say, "Oh, well, you didn't pray enough if you died, or you didn't this enough, or you didn't believe enough," and that is a really burdensome thing to put on someone with cancer. Like it's their
Absolutely.
fault they didn't get better. I've
Yeah.
known some amazing people who fought hard and prayed hard and did all these things, and they didn't make it. And I don't think we can have a mindset of, well, I'm just going to beat this no matter what. But I
Yeah.
do think there's a place of choosing hope and courage, and processing your emotions and giving yourself the time to make wise decisions. That's got to be helpful to us.
Oh, truly. And allowing yourself that grace of being sad.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. It is important to get that out because it can stop you from really seeing the joy around you. And a little secret, we're all mortal, you
Yes.
know, we are. And so, making the choice and setting little goals, like watering those darn plants, even though they brought me such pain in a moment, brought me such joy a week later when I saw them flourishing. And, that those little steps, when the things you can control can control,
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that you can manage. And that's okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've done some pretty cool things and done some pretty awesome grandiose kind of pieces. But that is not the foundation of my SISU.
Mm-hmm.
It is all those little in-between moments where my capacities are more limited.
It's interesting you would say this, because I'm Catholic and there's a process called the little way.
Mhm.
And it's the little way is about little things you do in your life. It might just be when you're doing the dishes, you're loving your family.
Yeah.
It's the little things that you do in your life that give love and show joy and show grace and things like that. So yeah, I think we're often expected to do something big and grand, but what I'm
Yeah.
hearing from you, it's the same. I think there's a lot of concepts when you break them down, they're the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're choosing every day to do something,
Absolutely.
choosing every
Absolutely.
way.
Yeah. And it's maybe a little conversation, it's a connection. Part of when I was initially diagnosed, I was overwhelmed by that initial shock from everybody else. my network of family and friends that just came with flowers and cookies and casseroles and wonderful smelly things and a knock at the door and a bing bong and my children at the time were 15 and 13. And the door was constantly ding, 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 ding. And they're like, oh my goodness, are those cancer flowers? Are those cancer food?
Cancer flowers.
They're like, if we see another cancer, because they were also trying to process, right? And so we kind of made a little bit light of it. I mean, the love and support was amazing, and I would never diminish that but people try to understand it in their way too. And they don't know what to say or what to do or how to support, because how do you? What does that look like? So in 2018, when I had that progression in my liver, at that time, I was in my first fitness competition that I chose to do. Now, some disclaimers here. It was called Miss Fit, double entendre intended.
That is hysterical.
But really, it was through one of my friends who has a fitness studio. And
now, is that part of the naming of your Facebook page?
Part of it, yeah. So my Facebook page is Flat Fit and Fabulous at Meta Warrior. And so when I went through the whole double mastectomy and the removal of my breasts, it took a lot to process those pieces for me, because prior to all of this, I had long blonde hair, big boobs. I had the whole package. I was, ding dong, I was the girl, right? And visually, that's how I saw myself in that. Like, there was more to me than just my visual, but it was, there. And so it took me some time to process that and understand my femininity again. And I knew that I wanted to be strong. And I wanted to be strong for my girls, because I have 2 daughters that I need to model for, right?
And you're teaching them.
Yeah, exactly. And so during that processing, I knew that I needed to get my strength back. I knew that being strong, because I was fit before, like I, worked out and lifted weights, and for just the purpose of general health. I wasn't in any competitions. I had been wanting to be in a competition secretly since I was 18, just once, to see if I could do it. Mm-hmm. Just because I do like personal challenges. And I thought, well, why not now? Why the heck not now?
I love it.
Coming out the other side of that first year of treatment, you feel pretty crappy. You are worn out, you're fatigued. I had Buddha belly, I was swollen. The side effects of the medication, just your whole self-image is pretty wiped out. And
I called myself green and bloated. I gained 60 pounds in treatment. I was not overweight before treatment. Yeah. I have 5 children. I walked out of the hospital not overweight. And so I didn't recognize myself. I was about, being blonde and big boobed and stuff like that. I had really dark black hair, mm-hmm. and I was slim, and I came out of it green and bloated and 60 pounds overweight, and lost both my breasts had cancer. So I had to have a double mastectomy. And I did not have my SNAP. What I found hard, the loss of your physical dignity. I have 2 really beautiful sisters. I was the smart one. So the fact that I looked different didn't necessarily bother me as much as my brain felt like much. That bothered me. I had to figure out, because I was gappy. Chemo brain is real.
Oh, it's so real.
And it was hard to reclaim myself when I felt tired and a little confused.
Yeah, exactly. And so I chose to do this competition.
That is so amazing.
And it was women of all makes, models, ages, and stages. It wasn't just focused on women with inflammatory breast cancer or cancers. They all had different stories, all had different journeys. And it was such a camaraderie. And at the end of the day, it wasn't about winning a competition. It was about uh, doing something better than I did yesterday. And I got strong. I felt great. I walked that stage. I still had a bit of Buddha belly. Like that stuff's hard to get off. It's not a
Well,
walk in the
even if
park.
it's not hard to get off, our livers get damaged
Yeah.
by the
Oh,
treatment. So you've got an
exactly.
enlarged liver. And there's something called a rib roll that happens when you have a double mastectomy, where because there's not a counterweight of having breast. So it's so you kind of curl in. It's called a vasectomy, huh? Your
Yeah,
ribs kind of go forward, so your body doesn't have that weight of breast. Keep those
right.
ribs kind of in check. So yeah, there's definitely differences
Well, and
that we can't even control.
exactly. And with my, like, I have lymphedema and I have
Got my
torso
arm in a box
lymphedema.
right now
Yeah.
because I'm recuperating from a surgery, having to have it elevated. Yeah, there's things. It's not like, oh, just get fit, lose a few pounds.
Yeah, no, like at the start of the day, I'd be one size. At the end of the day, I'd be a whole different size. There were times when I'd have to almost cut my shirt off because I couldn't get it off on my right side.
I
So,
have been there.
and it's terrifying. Like, who has to cut their clothes off to go to bed? You know, it's unfathomable, right? So,
There's a lot of challenges, but so
oh, there truly
you are
are.
this
So,
overcomer.
so I
And
did this
so
fitness thing,
what happened
and
next?
so then after that, I had another intervention and for my liver, and they did an internal radiation ablation, which was quite significant. They basically stitch you inside with radiation. It's a general surgery, and you're out for it. And it was just before Christmas 2018. And I did not bounce back well from that. I was the worst Hallmark story ever. Mom in hospital, palliative care, Christmas Eve. And it was just a reaction to the level of radiation that they did to the liver. And I wasn't responding well. So I spent Christmas in the hospital. That was so sad for me. I I remember looking at my children and they were just white with fear that we are going to lose them all. They were crying. I did my best to comfort them. Like my big mom heart just wanted to hug them. You know, I was medicated. I was so exhausted. I was running a fever. I was all of those things. And yet I tried to find my hope. And so they went home Christmas Eve, and Christmas Eve is a big tradition for us to do our big fondue and family and being with each other. And I remember going to sleep. I felt very lonely, felt very isolated. And I woke in the morning and there was this little teddy bear on my nightstand from an organization uh, here in Calgary with a little Christmas gift for me.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah, and I just realized that I woke up. I'm here. And so my fever was down. It was so quiet in the hospital. Um, it was just skeleton crew, you know, just the people that had to
Right.
be there.
Holiday skeleton crew.
Exactly. And and I thought I could be in bed and just saturate in my thoughts of loneliness, or I could get up. So I put on my ugly Christmas sweater over my nightgown. I got permission to leave the ward to go for a little walk. And I walked down to the emergency department. There was a little coffee shop down there. And I took my bank card to the coffee shop. I was just going to grab myself a little self-care treat and try to be in my moment. And then I started thinking about all the people around me that weren't with their families today. People that were there for trauma or joyful things, babies, or working. And I thought to myself, I need to do something that is outside of myself. And so I gave my bank card to the coffee shop lady, and I said, I want you to tap this for the next $200 worth of orders.
Oh my goodness.
And I went and sat down with my hot chocolate and my gingerbread man. And I just quietly watched as I brought so much joy to people. And it lifted me. And I got out of my head, and I said very clearly, please do not disclose that it's me, you know? And so I watched doctors, I watched couples, I watched single people, I watched the cleaner just be overwhelmed. And I had to laugh. One of the doctors said, oh, really? And ordered more. And I wasn't mad. It didn't anger me. It just made me laugh. Like, I thought that's great. So
That's funny. Well, and you know what it is those little tiny kindnesses, it's amazing what it can mean to someone.
truly. And then partly it was selfish for me, but I would hope that it inspired them. And they didn't need to know my story. They didn't need to know why I was there. They didn't need to know any of that. I just hope that it sparked something in them.
Well, so often
So
we don't get to thank the people who help us, really. And so you just kind of
exactly.
pay it forward mentality.
Absolutely.
And also, I think sometimes those little kindnesses might just be that one moment. You might have been the only person who didn't yell at them that day, or the
Exactly.
only person who knew, I mean, they had some secret suffering that there was just, you just gave someone a gift of joy.
Yeah. And it was good. And thus far it's become a tradition. I now take my girls. If we're in the city on Christmas morning, we go bright and early. Like, this is 6 o'clock in the morning when I did this, right? And we go bright and early just to do that for an hour and have our hot chocolate and gingerbread men and watch
What a
silence
great
afar.
tradition.
Yeah.
I know I do something, and I need to get back into it, is I used to send a birthday card on my birthday to all the doctors and the care team that took care of me and said, thank you for my bonus birthday. Because doctors who get into IBC, it's a tough gig, shall we say.
It is.
And just because they lose a lot of patients, and how can I make them remember that we do well and stuff. So little traditions. Well, I want to give us about, maybe 8 more minutes or so.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
what
So
do you
now,
want to leave
yeah,
people
so
with?
I had a number of progressions then over the years and a number of treatments, and I'm currently in my 7th line of treatment.
That's a lot of
7
treatment.
7 lines. And I
And people
still
don't know what
have,
that means.
yeah. So a line of treatment is kind of the course of action that they'll take to manage a progression, tumor, metastatic bone activity. I've had tumors return back and forth to my liver a couple of times now. I had a tumor in my neck that fractured my neck. I walked around with a fractured neck for 2 months, completely unaware. I thought I pulled a muscle.
And that's, I hear things like that, which I shouldn't shake my head. I hear it. Like, like a line of treatment, people don't realize that, oh, if you have regression, you can go have chemotherapy again, but you can't have the same chemotherapy again.
No, you can't.
This is why I'm so into research, because we need more
Absolutely.
things developed. Because, if FEC worked on you that first time, that's great. But if you have a progression, you can't have FEC again.
Exactly. So here I am, and my worst fear came true. Metastatic brain activity. And
that was always my big fear. But women
yeah.
like you may be not afraid, because I see you doing well.
Yes.
So
I'm
you're
still
currently in whole
operating
brain
my company. I'm in whole brain radiation. I'm literally
right now. Yeah.
Right now. Today is going to be day 8 of 15. And this is what they call one and done. Like, so very lightly, I have 2 lesions in my cerebellum and innumerable foci in my left and right hemispheres. I call it my angel light poking through, but my team. So I say team because it takes a team to work through this. And my team here is amazing. My radiation oncologist, my medical oncologist, my primary physician, my rheumatologist for my lupus, all are working together to maintain my health. And so when I first heard about whole brain radiation, I thought, oh my goodness, what does that look like? In the past, it was this archaic halo that was drilled into your head with, this diffuser that went over that, and different things like Amaya ports and all these different pieces of intervention that were archaic and scary and had poor outcomes. Here we are, 2022, and I'm receiving whole brain radiation with a ton of hope on the other side. And being released in Canada is the new chemotherapy, Enhertu. And I'm a candidate for that, which increases my hope even further. And there is no timestamp on me. I'm not drooling. I don't think I look like a cabbage, a lot of people here.
No, I know. I remember once having lunch with a lady who had had the gamma knife surgery because she had one lesion, so they were able to go with the gamma knife and take it out. But I went to the hospital to see her be with her family after the surgery, thinking I'd be with her family. And what happened was I'm sitting in her room, we're having lunch together. She'd had the surgery that morning, and they said, would you take her down for a walk on the way back?
Yeah.
Don't tell her how to get back. Let's see if she can get back on her own. Well, the funny part was she had to help me remember how to get back. I mean, it was amazing.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was so encouraging.
I think that, when people hear whole brain radiation, they maybe expect me to be in a palsy type of place where I'm, unable to communicate. I'm unable to function for myself, but I drive myself to radiation.
I think it's incredible. We could talk all day long, but unfortunately, I'm on a bit of a time crunch today. Is there something you want to wrap real quick and mention your website, and we can share and let people know? Because I'm hoping more women will start talking about whole brain radiation and also gamma knife. And we want to put together a special Zoom call of women with IBC with brain metastasis, because y'all need to meet each other. We need to talk.
Absolutely.
So what do you want to be your final thought with people today?
My thought is this, that adversity comes in all waves. And it's not just in an inflammatory breast cancer. Within the function of inflammatory breast cancer, there's all these sub pieces, dealing with new treatment plans, dealing with how that affects your day-to-day life. How do you function with your family? All of those pieces require choice. And for me, I would say that the supports that I've put in place, that I've chosen for myself through individual therapy, group therapy, supported forums, friends, asking for help when I need it, but also being independent too, have helped form what my family calls SISU. And find your SISU. It's there. It might be just tiny, just a little spark, but flame it a little bit, get it going, because it will serve you. It will serve you to move forward. And all of our days are numbered. And I just wish that everyone finds that little spark in your day, whatever that is.
Well, I can't think of any other more perfect way to end this conversation. And I'm really grateful that you were here with me today. And you don't know how much you've inspired me in my choices as I've followed you through your Facebook page. And I'm looking forward to future conversations.
Sounds good. Take good care.
Let's be old ladies together, right?
Oh, man, I've got a plan. Silver hair, purple leather leggings, and rocking it out.
I got the silver hair. I will work on some purple leggings, and then we'll have a visit in Canada, and we'll sit on Christmas morning somewhere buying people hot chocolate. How about that?
Sounds good to me. That sounds great.
Great. Well, you have a great day. Thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely.